Just share my screen. Okay, everyone, welcome to UBC Dietetics program update on June the 5th, 2024 from 1 p.m. We are starting now. First of all, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that UBC Dietetics program is based on UBC Vancouver Point Grey campus, which is located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. And a lot of people here today are from our practice education side. So our placement occurs in a variety of locations across areas known as British Columbia. There's a lot of other territories of our First Nation Indigenous people, and our faculty, our program is committed to working on different Indigenous initiatives and engage deeply with the community for our research, our practice education, curriculum, and all other pieces. I would also like to take a moment to ask you to reflect on the land that you are located on. So for our today's agenda, we would like to talk about, again, our program, mission, vision, value, introduce our team, a little bit update about our student, very exciting, and going on another great piece is about our accreditation status. We will also let you know about our master programs, capstone research project, and what is happening to our nutrition care courses, and some of the updates to our practice education planning, and how you can engage with us. In the end, we will leave a whole bunch of time for you to raise questions. We will post a Slido link in the later of the time, and so you can post your questions there. I'll pass the floor to our director, Dr. Tamara Corin, to talk about our program.
Thank you so much, Xinyan, and thank you everyone for joining us here today. I'm very privileged to be talking to you today from Musqueam territory. So for those of you who are not familiar with our program, we do have a vision and mission statement, and we really aspire to and are committed to this vision and mission. In particular, this speaks to inspiring our learners, and in this context, these are our dietetic students in both our undergrad and our master's program, and that's our MMD program that we'll get into some detail about as we move along this presentation, to advance this our dietetic practice in very different facets as it relates to food systems here in British Columbia and beyond. We thrive to be community focused. We work with integrity. We really are excited to work in that collaborative approach, which is, as we know, very deeply embedded in our competencies. We work on inclusion, and that comes right from our admissions process throughout practice education placements and justice for all. And our goal at UBC is to prepare our learners to enter the practice in roles of dietitians. So we don't admit students who we think will be good dietitians. We really thrive on having an environment that's based on this vision to have them blossom to be ready for practice. Next slide, please. As mentioned, I am coming to you today as director of the dietetics program, and we have such a wonderful team joining us here today who will be waving to you. You've met Xinyan Fan, our program manager. Skylar Parent, some of you might not know, is our new dietetics program coordinator, who is also here with us today. Tamar Kafka sends her regrets, and along with Melissa Baker-Wilson, who's here today, and Kara Vogt, our primary dietetic educators. Anna Briscoe here today, and Bruno Donati, our faculty lecturers who support programming in both undergrad, and Anna Briscoe being the face, our program lead for the MMD program.
All right, thank you so much, Tamara. Come back to me. So as you see, we have 3 cohorts presenting here. There are our recent 3 classes, class of 2024, 2025, and the current 2026, who are doing their first placement in the site. So you can see a lot of exciting faces here. They are growing students, they are gaining those competencies, and yeah, they're having their great journey with our program. So my next slide will be a little bit overwhelmed. Please don't be scared, it's just a bit data pieces. So I will highlight a little bit later on. Just want to let you know that this is the current cohort running in our program. So you can see the timeline I drew out for everyone. The pieces I would like to highlight is that first, on top of all the classes, class of 2024, they just had their convocation last Thursday, just a week ago, and we had 35 students graduated with Bachelor of Science in Food Nutrition Health Dietetics major, and they just finished their CDI exam last month as well. The other thing I would like to pinpoint is our first Master of Nutrition and Dietetics program student, 10 of them, will finish their final placement in this December. And so they will become registered dietitian temporary, the interim period, once they finish their last placement in December. And then they will take their CDRE in next year's May as well. So you can see going on with our program growing, we will have 2 rounds of graduation every year. So in the spring summer time, we will have the undergraduate student with a bit large number of students coming up. And then the growing number of our master students who are finished their placement in December, so enter into workforce right away after the Christmas, the winter holiday season. This slide and the rest of the slide will also be posted on the website later after the session. So for our partners, you can also download the slide later from website to see the details. All of the numbers here are tentative. We have a bit slightly increase, decrease every year, but this is what happening in the next 3 years in our province. We will have all of those great students graduating and become the new dietitian workforce for our province. All right, let's talk about accreditation. I'll pass the floor to Tamara again.
Yes, very excited to be speaking to you about accreditation, which is a different tone from our last year. So as some of you might know, across Canada, the dietetics program have sort of had lots of trials and tribulations. I'll just leave it at that in terms of signing agreements with Accreditation Canada. I'm very proud to announce that UBC was the second institution in Canada to work through lawyers and collect agreements and agree to sign on with this accreditation body. So our keeping it high level, we've formed we have an accreditation team, which is comprised of individuals from our UBC Dietetics team, who essentially spearheaded the written report. We have received reviews back from Equal where we've exceeded expectations. So rest assured the province is in good hands so far with the team in getting our programs reaccredited. So this is the undergraduate program is being reaccredited and the master's program is being accredited. So there are some nuances in terms of the timing, as we know, with our provincial regulatory body merging with other health professional programs. But again, back-end systems and negotiations have been done to ensure that the MMD program hits the mark. So highlight points for the province and for all of you here joining today is you will most likely in some way or another be involved, as we have received official notice that in September, UBC will be going through an on-site review. And what this means is that they'll most likely be requesting at random to have folks like yourself, primary preceptors in different facets of supporting the program, to come and give your candid thoughts and feedback about how we run. We really are looking for that to, that's how we grow. If you don't tell us, we don't know. And that will come back in a form report that I'll work with the province in getting actually legislation changed to officially have our MMD program recognized in the province. So it's very exciting. We're really pushing waves here. And again, we're also supporting, a quick note, other programs across Canada. So Xinyan has been involved with special assignments with Accreditation Canada. Bruna Donati will go up soon to support other programs. So it is possible that Accreditation Canada comes to you as a preceptor and a valued member of our community to support other programs across Canada. So this is really a joint effort. But again, I've been in constant communication with the Alliance, who is working with the colleges across Canada and keeping it very, ministries involved as needed. So all this to say is we're definitely a lot calmer than we were last year when speaking about accreditation. I am very impressed with how the team and very proud of the team on how they've, guided us through this. And again, we've exceeded all on-site review requirements. So we're in really good standing for a very successful accreditation stamp for both programs. To note, just final comment is because the MMD program is new, it will be a temporary accreditation assignment. So sort of we will be having to redo this process in 2 years, but that's a UBC problem. That has nothing to do with the province. So we look forward to sending out those updates in probably about November when we get the final certificates. So I'll look forward to any questions or comments related to this as at the end of the presentation.
Thank you,
Oh,
Tamara.
I'm back on.
Yeah, this next slide is for as well about our
Yeah.
capstone research project.
So this says, if you know me well enough, you know that this is very dear to my heart, our MMD capstone research project. And I've seen some names that have jumped online who have been our guinea pig preceptors in supporting us and being so open to us being, pivoting and changing as we've gone through the process of implementing capstone projects. So this is my shout out to all of you here on the call. If you're curious about a research question but don't have the capacity or the bandwidth to see that through, you can call on UBC. And it's actually myself personally who will be helping oversee all the different projects as we work through them with the students. So very briefly, students are paired. Projects need to obviously advance some sort of questions related to dietetic practice. The more controversial they are, I'm more involved and excited to be there. And they're a year long. So this is a change from what our proposal was when we first introduced this concept. So by that being, in September, students will pick the project. So we really thrive on that intrinsic motivation. Students have to be excited about the projects because they're sort of, working with you over the year and the project. So students will write a proposal. They will be coached and guided to submit ethics if needed or amendments. So that's when you need a change in an ethics to get a project, pivoted as required. And then we have reserve time in September through December where they work about 10 hours a week on the project. And again, they can keep sort of trekking along it throughout the year. At the end, we have a great colloquium presentation and there's reporting and assessments throughout. But I will say that the feedback from students this year, from our 10 students in the MMD program, has been nothing but incredibly positive. Students were scared about this when they first started, but through the supports of UBC, through the different courses, and myself and preceptors guiding them, they feel confident about disseminating, some complex questions when it comes to dietetic practice, right down to statistics and methodology. And they're very prepared to go out there and continue forth as they become registered dietitians. So again, we're looking for new projects coming up. Anna, thank you for putting in that proposal Qualtrics survey. I'm happy to meet with anyone if you have questions or need supports on that, but I can rest assured it's nothing but positive. And as always, we're open to feedback on this, and those of you who have been with us on this journey have just been so tremendous in terms of preceptors and supporting this initiative. So that's my pitch for you. The deadline for submission, it's open. We would prefer them sooner than later by within a few weeks. But if you require more time, please reach out to myself or Skylar, who's supporting this project. Great, thank you. Passing it on.
Thank you so much, Tamara. So next slide, beside we have our lovely capstone research project initiative as one of the core pieces for our curriculum, the nutrition care, which build our students strong nutrition assessment skill and other pieces. We have a lot of enhancement in this as well. So we're going to pass the floor to our faculty lecturer, Bruna Donati, to talk about this.
Thanks, Shinian. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here talking to all of you. So I just want to give you guys a quick overview of the nutrition care courses, how they are organized now. So we really enhanced the nutrition care curriculum in the new curriculum that we're working by, first of all, adding a third nutrition care course. So we now have nutrition care 1 during year 3. then your students go to the first practice education placement. It's a nutrition care placement for 6 weeks. And then in year 4, they have nutrition care campus course number 2 and nutrition care campus course number 3. And then they go to their 5th year, to their final year, where they're going to have 18 more weeks of nutrition care placements as well. So the content of nutrition care is, of course, spread across all these 3 courses. However, I just want to highlight some pieces here so you have a better understanding on how this is framed. So nutrition care course number 1, it's actually the foundations of nutrition care. So we talk about nutrition care process, screening, assessment, malnutrition, refeeding syndrome, a brief introduction to supplementation, pharmacology, and etc. Nutrition care 2, we talk about EN, PN, some acute care setting conditions such as trauma, sepsis, critical care, etc., and GI diseases as well. And finally, nutrition care 3, we talk about diverse conditions such as diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, renal diseases. We also have neurological diseases, pulmonary diseases, cancer, and etc. It's a lot of stuff. But I also want to highlight here that we did improve a lot our content on dysphagia. So now students, they have more exposure to dysphagia during these campus courses. And we are working very hard to introduce a pediatrics module. It's likely, we're likely going to have pediatrics content spread throughout these courses, but they're going to be more focused during nutrition care 3 as well. So that's all that I have for now, but I'm open to questions here. Thank you. I see here someone just saying that it seems to me that the second and third course should be flipped. Karen, this is something, thanks for your comment. This is something that we considered in the past. However, many diseases that we talk about, nutrition care 3, the students must have been exposed to EN and PN, otherwise the content gets lost. So EN and PN, unfortunately, needs to be on year 2. I see another question here. Is that a module on eating disorders? Yes, it's during nutrition care 1, okay? We haven't put all the content here for all the 3 courses, otherwise it's just very overwhelming. The slide would be like huge. But yes, we do have a module on eating disorders during nutrition care 1. Diabetes, dysphagia, and renal function, cardiac issues are common to many patients. Yeah, I do understand that. This is something that we have also considered to spread this across nutrition care 1 and also nutrition care 3. But again, the way that we frame, for example, when we talk about diabetes, we must have talked about weight issues and weight disorders, including weight stigma and etc. So this was the only way actually that we found we could spread the content in an organized manner for the students. But we're open to suggestions for sure.
Thank you so much, Bruna. Thank you, Karen, for your questions. Again, I would love everybody to hold your questions to the end. We have a lot of time for us to discuss. The other thing that I would add on to Bruna's pieces is that nutrition care 2 and 3 course will happen in our student year 4 before they enter into the practice education the end of the year 4 and year 5. So those 2 courses are actually just back to back in the 2 terms. All right. We're going to shift a little bit since I talk about practice education. Now let's move from our campus courses to the practice ed part. This year we have a little bit leadership change, like Anna and Kara are taking the lead for the entire planning and communication. I'm also involved with that. So I'm going to pass the floor to Anna to talk about our current practice education status and modules.
Hello, lovely to see everybody, and I'm so excited to chat about this. Yes, so this is really just a little bit of an overview, and there's absolutely far more resources around the structure, the kind of supports, the forms we use, all of that stuff available on the website, which Kara will share a little bit later. But just wanting to really say our practice education program structure is really about being fully integrated. As mentioned by Bruno, there's that placement between the first year of Dietetics courses and the second year of Dietetics courses, and really being structured, having these blocks throughout the year so it's easy to plan at a big level across the province, and then being very student-centered, really trying to help support students to grow into those, ethical, competent, clinical, decision-making, and all of the pieces that come in when you are practicing as a dietitian. So There was a little typo here for some reason, but anyway, a lot of people ask, you know, like, oh, well, there's two programs now. Like, what's the difference if I get a graduate student or an undergraduate student? And the answer is there's one set of competencies for entry to practice. And so there is the same expectations, outcome, structure for both of the programs. So if you have an M&D student, you have an undergrad student, it's really the same. Your experience, the learning outcomes are the same. The only difference is schedules. Because as Xinyan pointed out, there's that slightly earlier end date because the M&D students do practice education all throughout the summer, not just May, June, but also July, August, which is also why there are asterisks a few points down here. So different schedules, same outcomes, same general structure, and really wanting to just share a little bit more about the kinds of placements that students have. There are 6 placements overall, 4 of which are clinical. And so there is that first introduction to nutrition care, which is really nutrition assessment focused because as described and shown so beautifully in the graphic Bruna just shared, there's that piece where they've only had one of those 3 nutrition care courses. And so expecting students to do the entire nutrition care process in a wide range of practice areas isn't necessarily a suitable outcome to really have. So really focusing on those nutrition assessment and trying to understand, you know, what happens in these healthcare contexts, which might be very, very new to a lot of students. These are also paired placements, which with that 2-to-1 ratio, there's definitely benefits that can happen from there in terms of students being able to peer mentor each other, to observe each other, and also to be able to collaborate and check things before perhaps going to a preceptor and asking questions. So being able to really collaborate, which is so important for our practices, right? Then there are 3 upper year, we're going to call them, because whether it is year 5 of undergrad program or year 2 plus for the M&D program, we're just going to call them upper year to keep it our senior, whatever word we want to use, nutrition care processes, which are individual placements in the full nutrition care process. And so with those 4 placements, the goal is really to have at least 2 of the placements in acute care inpatient settings, 1 in an outpatient or primary care setting, and then the last placement, that 4th placement in any setting, which could include long-term care, rehabilitation, or another acute or outpatient setting. And I'll get to how we recruit that in the next slide. But I just also want to touch on our other 2 placement areas besides clinical nutrition is really the management and leadership placement and population health. And so these can occur in a wide variety of settings, including with, you know, in terms of population health, it could be in public sector, government roles, with private sector organizations working in food nutrition, and also in some cases working with private practices or things that are focused on groups, but doing more of the program planning and group-related pieces, education, not anything related to one-on-one clients. So then with management and leadership, you know, people talk a lot about food service management, which is so important, and there's so much innovation happening across our province right now in terms of sustainable food systems and all kinds of cool stuff, so very exciting. But also there are placements in clinical leadership, which is an emerging role for dietitians, and also in government roles related to things like policy and really also education, and also again, private practice and entrepreneurship is another great area of practice that can be suitable for a student placement. So that's just a little bit of the kind of areas and really the goals of our overall program. So we can go to the next slide. And as you know, as we sort of presented throughout this, we have a growing program. We have more graduates, which is exciting, you know, and but that means we also have a growing need for more placements. And this is not unique to dietetics. You'll probably have heard announcements from the provincial government over the last few years looking at, you know, we've got different policies coming out. We've got the allied health strategy, health human resources strategy. Really, this is much, much bigger than just dietetics. But of course, we are a really wonderful small profession. And as part of this whole bigger strategy, this year there was a workforce advisory committee convened by the ministries of advanced education and also health. And so really working towards having an annual plan for placement planning so that it's not, you know, each school or each program going to each health authority and having these discussions, which is really lovely, and we built such wonderful relationships over the years, but it's also really important to try and think about how can we scale this, how can we grow the program, how can we support more students and really find that placement capacity. So very exciting to be involved in that and just really wanting to share that as a general update and just looking ahead. So all of the students, we've got students in placements right now. And then the fall placements are confirmed, but we'll be doing our students ranking and assignment this month using our placement policies. And I'm a bit of a policy nerd, but I'll just let you know you can find all the program policies on the website, really helpful. So if you ever wonder, like, how do you decide which student goes to which placement, or what are the roles and responsibilities? We've got that there. So just throwing it out there. So yeah, that's it for practice education updates, but just very, very grateful to be for the collaboration from all our partners throughout the province in this process. So yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Anna. Yeah, I guess this is a majority of our participants joining us from your side, and then constant support to our program to our student. So what you can do more, and if you want to involve and engage more with our program, it comes to our next slide. I will pass the floor to Kara to talk about your engagement with us.
Thanks, Shinyan. It's an honor to have the opportunity to cap off our last slide before we get to the question and answer period. And so we're ending with a simple invitation. We mentioned off the top that we really are deeply committed to our values, two of those key ones being collaboration and engaging with our communities, being community focused. That means you, that means everyone watching this recording, our students. We're very lucky that we have many intersecting communities that we really value the input and wisdom from. So there are more than a few ways to get involved with the program, to engage with us. I've listed a few of the key ways that we engage with members of our communities every year. And I've offered just the general homepage of our website because you can have a browse around our preceptor section, our admissions section, if you'd like to have a look. Another thing that isn't named here but wanted to reflect back on is we had the opportunity to do some really powerful work with two different consultants in 21-22, and one of them had special expertise in approaches to decolonizing health professional education, and the other one brought a lens of how we can do better with our equity and anti-racism focus in all areas of our program. So, for example, the way that we've reshaped some of our committee structures has really been informed by their advice to us, and we're really excited to slowly and mindfully reform a lot of our engagement mechanisms that we've historically had into an even better and more thoughtful version. So a final capping off on this slide that we always look out for you on Jerry's list. So make sure you're looking for us. We're forever grateful to Jerry, I'm sure as many of us are, for having that very robust communication channel. So if you don't make our way to your website or our website, then definitely have a look at Jerry's list. We will be looking for new committee members in 2025. And I'll send it back to Shinyan to take us to the Q&A.
Thank you, Kara, and thank you all of our program people here to present for today. So all the slides official part has been run through, and going on, I will give you a Slido QR code. Also, Scala has posted our Slido links in the chat function. So if you are using another device, want to scan, you can scan now. Then or click the link in the chat to join the Q&A. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing the current screen and then pull the Slido page up. All right. So far we have one question here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read aloud the question to the audience, and then one of our member or myself will address the questions there. So the question is, I have heard from new grads they are not ready for entry-level practice in clinical examples like EMPN, especially EMPN. Are there plans for more than minimum two acute care placement? So we'll pass this to our educators. Maybe Kara and Anna can talk about this.
I can go for it. So yeah, really, again, we would love to have more acute care placements, but really this is about a capacity piece across the province. And so this has been kind of where we're at in terms of what's available. We've been working again provincially. And so this is something that we hope to shift for sure. But this is why, again, we said sort of minimum 2, 1 outpatient and 1 other. And again, as we can find more acute care placements and increase capacity, then we shift. And also understanding that those are 2 6-week placements later in their education. And so really at the end of the placement, they would be, and yeah, and also I guess that was also the other thing to add would be around particularly enteral and parental nutrition. We know that not every site will have a lot of exposure to that, either just because they are, sometimes you're there at a time when there just aren't a lot of tube feeds or aren't a lot of parental nutrition needs. And other times it's just because it's a lower acuity site. And again, we're trying to use our capacity across the whole province. So we also have assignments that are simulation-based around those competencies to extend student learning and make sure that everyone has exposure. So hopefully that addresses the question. But yeah, absolutely would love to see more acute care sites, and also know there's lots of emerging areas of practice. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Anna. Okay, coming to the next one. New grads this year expressed that they didn't learn many of the food service competencies that were on the exam. How will UBC help achieve ICF competencies? Food service, I guess, Anna, you are the area of that as well.
Yeah. Okay, I can answer this. So we definitely understand that students may not remember these things that they have learned, but in the course that they took with Jerry in fall of the second year of the program, Foods of Benefit, they do up to the DOES level within a food service environment, like creating, going through all the steps, really hands-on course, very clearly aligned with all of the competencies. So perhaps the connection between that course and the hands-on skills and the kinds of questions that are asked on the licensing exam or the registration exam, perhaps that's something that I'm definitely looking into in terms of how do we then remind and refresh and really engage students. But that is something that they definitely did learn it. It's just that piece of the connection between practical on-the-ground skills meeting those performance indicators and the way that standardized tests for registration are framing questions might be quite different. So it's a good question, though, and I think just making that clearly can always be clearer.
Thank you, Anna. So a lot of people like this question being prompted to the top. It is, can students spend more time in just one health authority so they spend less time doing orientation? And also this could help, I guess, health authority recruitment in a remote area. Kara, maybe you would like to answer this?
Sure. Thanks for the question. I mean, lots of things to consider here. And as Anna mentioned, we have reposted all of our revised policies, and the policy that speaks directly to how we make placement decisions is titled Practice Education Placements. Not a surprise there. So what I can say about this is designing placement schedules is tricky, just to put it simply. There are a lot of competing priorities that we're working with. So Anna has spoken to a few of those just in terms of sheer placement capacity and where different placements exist so that we can really offer every student the right balance of acute care, ambulatory care, long-term care. Nutrition care is sort of the one that we're trying to juggle the most. The other placement areas, we are able to sort of make that work a little bit more simply since it's a smaller focus of the program. And I think some of the pieces that we haven't spoken to yet today that I just wanted to shed some light on is there are pros and cons to spending time in just one health authority, and to sort of share a little bit from the education literature that was really informing some of our decision making on having students spend time in different places. Some of the really historic feedback we've heard prior to program change from preceptors, from students, is that there's this real sort of ask of us as educators to prepare students to be adaptable, flexible, critical thinkers. And if we look to some of the education literature, I mean, it doesn't tell you you should do placements here, here, and here to achieve that. But some of the concepts that are relevant, I feel, are when students are exposed to different ways of doing things, different ways of thinking, it does produce more flexible, more adaptable thinkers So that is one of the real advantages of having students do their training in different places, is it does really put them in that position where they have to think very actively and critically about why is something being done this way and how is it different or the same than I've seen elsewhere. So that is a very, I'd say, pedagogical or philosophical approach to why a balance of training in different places is really something that we value. Of course, we need to balance that off with not moving students around so many times that it's overwhelming our orientation capacities as a province. And of course, we need to be mindful that it's not overwhelming the student's ability to actually be in a place and have a home. So there's a bit of a tension there between our philosophical values and just the pragmatism of not moving students around too much. So, we're keeping our eyes on this. We are definitely, paying attention and shifting as we need to, but I don't think we foresee going back to our old model where we had students only train in one place for their entire practicum experience. So I hope that's a fulsome answer to your question.
Thank you, Kara. So I think there are some questions here also related to practice education. I just wanted them to take a break because I want to answer these questions. So with very low vacancy rates of rental properties and inaccessibility like rental prices, how is the program being inclusive to those of lower incomes? So great questions about the financial support that the program can be offered. I actually forget to put that in a slide. We actually have a little bit opportunities starting this year, this summer, for our student. Thanks to Tamara and also LFS Development Office, we received a large donation from anonymous donor, and then we entitled this to rural out-of-town placement support. So students who are going to be placed outside of the town, like Lower Mainland area, they can apply for this funding opportunity. So anything Tamara would like to add on a little bit?
Yes, thank you, Shinyan. And yes, unfortunately it came through this avenue and we forgot to somehow post that, but very excited to officially announce that we do have an anonymous donor who I've worked with and is very supportive to enhance the student experience specifically related to dietetics and really to help students lessen that burden financially, knowing that they might have to sublet to go out of town or whatever that might mean to them within geographical location. So we've worked with UBC and Shinyan's been instrumental, and thank you, Shinyan, for the support on this to figure out how to provide students with a significant lump sum of money that they'll be able to get to offset some of these financial costs and the burden of, as stated with the housing, but also the travel, the food costs not to be, discounted, et cetera, et cetera. So this is offered to both the undergrad and graduate program. And I have a very busy few years ahead in making sure that this funding is secured indefinitely, quite frankly. So this is quite unique to dietetics. I don't think there's another program across Canada that has this. So very, very proud of the province and being able to support the program in this way, and especially those students. So thank you for that question.
Thank you, Tamara. Also adding on to that piece, speaking of development office, maybe some of you sitting in the audience today, we also want to express and extend our appreciation for your donations in the giving day. So if you would like to, this is just a call out from me as well, if we would like to offer a little bit that to support future dietetic students, you can also reach out to me or reach out to our development office. There will be opportunities and venues for you to giving in. And then again, we appreciate all of your support for our students and for our education for those students. Okay, shift the gear a little bit back to our practice education. There are 7 people like this question. Is there a possibility of less time spent doing UBC days, especially since they are only half-day lecture at most, so students can get more practice time? Anna or Kara would like to talk about this?
Sure, I can speak to this. I think this one's really dear to our heart, and I wanted to talk a little bit about some of our changing student populations and what felt like a real meaningful way for us to really acknowledge the intensity of practice education and the need for time away from the practice setting to consolidate learning. Also, something we've noted over the years in working with students when they didn't have a designated day off, when it was only a half day, is, students have medical appointments and dentist appointments and things they need to take care of in their lives. And we've really aimed to create that space on that 1 day a week that they're not in practice education, where they can have that time and opportunity to sort of take care of those other things that ultimately will keep them more well throughout their journey through the practice education experience. Of course, we all work in healthcare or work, getting our own healthcare needs met, that it's not always possible for them to get every appointment attended to on our specific day off from practice ed, but that's really the intention, is really to honor that, mental health has not always been a core focus of university education, of our healthcare system, and we're really trying to honor that, a day where we do teach, but then there is some space for students to reflect, consolidate, and take care of other needs is pretty philosophically important to us. So I don't think we see in the near future going back to the half day, but never say never. I mean, we're always listening and tracking data and paying attention, but that's kind of where we're at this moment.
Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you for that question. I think the next one will come to Bruna. For NCP, are the students learning a specific way to chart or use PES approach?
Yes, the students do learn the PES approach and they have lots of opportunities to practice that. So just to give you an overall idea, for almost every single disease that they see during the nutrition care courses, we use the nutrition care process, let's say, organization to help students reflect on that and think about diagnosis, intervention, monitoring. And we do use the PS statements to guide that. They have the opportunity to practice that at least in 9 case studies. They are distributed across the nutrition care courses. In regard charting, they do learn about charting in the ADIME format and in the SOAP format as well, in nutrition care, and also in the professional practice courses as well. They do have a big activity, and I may be able to speak more about that as well.
In terms of, it's less about particular formats. We do also use the nutrition care process terminology and all of that. But during the second professional practice course, which is in that last semester of, or last term of campus courses, is really kind of a sort of way of integrating pieces. There's a, what do we even call this? A partnership we've developed with UBC, or so it's BC Brain Wellness Program, and so that students are supported to do some nutrition counseling. Obviously supervised practice with, and then also using an EMR. So having some opportunities to actually do that charting, to work in into professional setting, and then to also, be exposed to some different formats of practice, including virtual practice. So that's all I have to say about that. How about Bill?
Thank you, Bruna and Anna's add-on. So the next question, a 6-week rotation with one preceptor is too long for acute care and leads to preceptor burnout. Can students not have 3 weeks rotations and like double the rotation and in different areas? I'm not sure this question, maybe I'll goes to Karen or Tamara, can both talk about that.
Sure, I can take that one. Interesting fact about placement length is something we've been paying attention to for a long time. And we've done 2 and 3 week rotations for a long time in dietetics training in BC. And so we do recognize the shift to 6 weeks is a big shift practically and cognitively for folks. So just want to really recognize that, the transition is real. We actually got this really neat data poll. We have colleagues who work for the PHSA who have oversight over kind of practice education across all the professions. And we're very much an outlier in terms of short placement length in the way that we used to do things. So 6 weeks, although it feels long for us as a profession because it's new, it's very much within the average of what other professions do. So I think that's just an interesting piece to add to this conversation, that we really have shifted to something that is more of, I I won't say best practice because that might be a contested term. There's no perfect placement length. I've looked, trust me, but it is very much in the spirit and in the mix of what most other professions are doing in terms of placement length. So for that reason, we're not anticipating a short-term shift back to shorter placements like we used to have.
Thank you, Kara. So the next question on the screen. With the change to no grading at the end of placement, we found students are less engaged in learning as they know they will pass regardless. Please comment. It's about curriculum, about assessment. So maybe one of the educators can also answer that.
I can start us off and the educators can come in. So there hasn't been a change with no grading. The students, this historically practice education, and from what I know, this isn't just a UBC thing, it's nationally as a pass-fail course. Students, what has changed from UBC is the way that we do our evaluations. But in terms of motivation to pass, this has not changed in terms of the overall way that we do our assessments at the end. At the end of the day, just again to reiterate and stress that students must still meet the competencies. And this is, that they would gain, throughout placement. So nothing has changed in terms of a grade standpoint. We can leave it at that. Okay.
Thank you. Moving on. We will have the next one. How can UBC support preceptor burnout? Great questions. I don't know anybody who want to start. Anna, I see you unmute.
I can unmute. I mean, I don't know that we are very keen to collaborate with our partners in the health authorities. Burnout is really a workplace job role. Like the definition of burnout really relates to job roles, and therefore employers need to be involved in that conversation. And I know that there's been some really great work happening in some of the health authorities about supporting preceptors during this time. And so we would absolutely love to collaborate on however we can. So definitely, if you're interested, if you're a manager, if you're a preceptor who's like, I wish this could change, like, let's talk, please reach out. But yeah, that's I guess the short answer is we absolutely love to support. We don't know that there's kind of that piece of like, what is our role? What is your role? That's part of also why having that day off gives some space from students, gives some space to just like go back to practice. There's lots of layers here in terms of how we can collaborate and how placement structures, but that's just, yeah. I also see a question about preceptor education sessions, and that can tie in as well. So very open for collaboration, because this will really be absolutely between employers and also educational institutions as well. And then I guess I kind of tie that into innovative models of preceptorship. Yes, again, love it. Would love to connect. There's so much work happening in the province and in different allied health professions, and I think there's also some different things happening in different health authorities around what might be possible. Things like in physio, it's quite common to have sort of what they call student-led clinics, which are really just a particular model of a site where there are students throughout the year. It's not necessarily student-led, there's obviously still support, but there's different pieces like that. There's actually a really cool document from the province that can look at these different kinds of models. So again, very happy to connect. Love to hear different options. The one-to-one ratio is how it has sort of evolved for dietetics, but very happy to see what else is out there. So yeah, thank you. Great question.
I just want to jump in and sort of reiterate and stress in one point, given the 2 or 3 questions we've had on burnout. And that's to really remind folks, and we do this, as we engage in supporting students throughout practice education, that we are here for you. We are literally paid to support students and yourselves out. If you feel that it's becoming too burdensome, conversations with students are sitting, not advancing, or you just need some additional supports or guidance, please use us. We are here for you.
Thank you so much, Tara and Anna's address about those questions. Yes, so this is continued work from our program and also from accreditation perspective as well. This is what we are doing to engage with our partners to make our student excellent, also make your work excellent as well. So thank you for the way that you put in here. We hear you. We will definitely execute actions and also to definitely protect your workload there. Okay, so the next question. Will you bring back a relief rotation or as an area of practice in their last nutrition care rotation? I'm not too sure about relief rotation because I've been just with the program for 3 years. So probably our educators know more than me. I will pass the floor to our educator. Maybe Anna or Tamara knows more.
I can rotate in, take that one. Just to clarify terms, if anyone's not familiar with that terminology. So in previous models of our program, we had a sort of capstone, if you will, nutrition care placement that happened at the end of a student's journey, where they would be expected to practice with minimal supervision as a way to assess their ultimate readiness to enter the profession. And I mean, the concept of that was great. And I think this really does tie into some of the things we've already been talking about in the Q&A, that we've been hearing about burnout for a long time, not just since we've changed the program. It is real. We honor that. And one of the interesting observations from talking with students, preceptors, sites, and reviewing years of feedback is that when a student is earlier on in their journey, say they're in the beginning of their placements, it objectively does take more work to support that student to get further along in their development. Whereas when they're near the end and those preceptors who are taking students for relief, it's much easier to support a student when they've had this culminative experience already. So it was creating some unfairness around, some preceptors were routinely being asked to do these earlier placements. And, there are a lot of reasons for that we probably don't need to deep dive for this question, but we wanted to think about how do we more equitably shift structure of our practice ed so that students get multiple opportunities to practice in that relief style in multiple placements, not just this very high stakes 3-week placement at the very end. So we haven't fully actualized this yet because we're still in a state of change, but the real advantage of a 6-week placement is that a student actually can go through the arc of more supervised to less supervised practice within each placement. And I think it's going to take us time as a community to really grasp that as a way of working together. And there was a good question about preceptor education. We probably could do a bit more work on our side to really coach preceptors through how to do that. We've added a page to our evaluation form. It's page 2, where we have attempted to articulate the general progression of how to support a student from more supervised to less supervised. So the vision is really that if you're a preceptor in any placement, that you get that benefit of that relief style, kind of less supervision in the last week or 2 of every placement. And so it's one small strategy amongst many that we're trialing to try and relieve the burden a bit so that everyone who takes a student gets the advantage of closer to the end of 6 weeks. The student should be pretty self-sufficient. I mean, again, the world is not perfect and sometimes things come up, and that's where, to hearken to what Tamara said, I think we're happy to chat through with you if that's not happening. Sometimes there are complexities, but so we're not anticipating going back to the relief placement as the one singular, but that is, I think, how we can continue to support preceptors, because that is really how we're trying to shift so that students are sort of at that minimally supervised stage within each placement throughout the year.
Thank you so much, Kara. I think Kara also touched base on a little bit the next question that being on top, which is, are there plans to bring back more clear assessment? New form seems too broad for students to self-reflect accurately. In parentheses, saying to know what they don't know. So any more comments from our team regarding the assessment form?
I can just comment and say we acknowledge the concerns. I mean, this isn't the first that we've heard about our assessment forms. We are working to, actually, we will be meeting as a team soon to discuss this further. and we'll relay any information about that in the near future. But yeah, we appreciate that for some, this is a problem in terms of the level of detail.
Okay, look at the time. We're almost close to 2 p.m. So there's a quick question, or maybe just flipping away of the time that student away from the site. So the upcoming for placement, our student will be off the site every Monday. Right, Kara and Emma, they're not in their head, so I'm not remembering wrong. So they will be off the site on every Monday. And MND and undergrad BSF student are the same. So both program students will be off Monday in this fall. So one last question we can do as a top. In reality, students were not able to practice anywhere near independently at the end of their last clinical placement. How is UBC addressing that gap?
I can talk a little bit. So I hear you, and I understand that when we have expectations around what independent practice means, I'm just curious as to how many students that was, where it was. When you say independent, we need like more nuance there. And also, if there are concerns at any point during a placement, any placement, by like week 3, by the midpoint, if you're really having concerns, this person is really not progressing, they're not changing from week to week, they're not able to carry more than a couple of patients in a particular setting, like then that's when we come and we talk together and we come up with strategies. We have another policy about that. I'm going to keep talking about policies, but no, we have a whole process for this. So if you are a preceptor and you feel like the student is not progressing through from especially week 3, 4, where they really should be gaining more independence, then that's we need to have a conversation. Please reach out early, reach out often. We are absolutely here for it. And that's why we have the educator team we have. We can, in terms of the kinds of supports and skills that can help students to be more independent. So yes, hopefully that helps. But yes, that should not be happening. But also I understand where there's this, perhaps it's difficult to sort of reach out when you're already feeling that burden, but just send a quick email, happy to connect. So that's my short answer.
Thank you so much, Anna. Okay, so that comes to 2 p.m. I will switch the gear to our last slide. I know there are 12 or more questions on our Slido. It will be all collected in our back end. Again, we really open and appreciate your questions. You bring your concerns in this way to our attention. A lot of great comments, a lot of things that bring to our program to make us a better program, to support the entire provincial dietetics workforce in the future. So we will definitely take it serious. And then our last slide, you see the cherry blossom here, a sign of a UBC, a sign of growing, blossoming. It's always transword that our student will blossom in the end. And also, thank you so much in the end that you attended today's session. Thank you for all of your support. Thank you for all of your care to our student, to our program. For more program updates, please check our website. We would love and hearing from you, and we look forward for future engagement with you as well. Like the last slides Kara shared, there's a lot of opportunities with our program as well. Thank you. Bye, everyone.